everyone. It's Friday. And that only means one thing. We're fucking late to get to work. I spent all night last night staying up and watching fucking YouTube videos. So let's get going. So this is obviously a new segment called Driving with Dads. I don't have a very long commute, so it kind of condenses my thoughts to about a 10-minute platform. So let's go. Big topic as of late has been live service games and PlayStation and the direction of gaming as a whole. So I wanted to touch on that. I keep hearing that live service games are live service games are dead, and that companies like PlayStation should be focusing on single player games. And these comments are said by people who only remember PlayStation for single player content, and they don't see any of this stuff to be worthy because it keeps failing. Wow. And so is that the problem? I completely agree that PlayStation and in general a lot of AAA companies should be focusing on games that have a lifespan outside of an online platform. So I do believe that there should be some single player content, but I don't think that's the problem, and I think everyone's kind of not seeing the forest in the trees. Right now, as an example, I'm putting tons of money and time into a older, I won't say retro because I think it's so silly, but an older video game project which is collecting and working on original Xbox. The original Xbox was my favorite generational platform. I technically Dreamcast, but I'm not going to count in that generation. Of those main three consoles, Xbox was my console choice. And frankly speaking, I think it's kind of been all downhill since. Now the irony is, while I am collecting for a bunch of different games, and obviously there's single player content, the thing that's the biggest allure is getting a chip called Project Stellar and running Insignia on it, which allows you to run the original Xbox Live. So if the problem that everybody wants is single player games, why are services like Insignia so alluring and so popular? And I think it's simply that the problem isn't online games. I don't think it's games as a service even. I know that's controversial to say, but I really don't think that games like Fortnite or whatever are necessarily the problem. I think it's maybe how they go about it. But I don't think having an online game and enjoying content with other people is a problem. Just look at Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders is doing phenomenally. But as of late, we've been seeing release after release after release just die. We've had Marathon recently have their server slam that only got like 150,000 players on Steam at its height, and then quickly fell off to 80 grand. I think the last I checked, it's hovering around 50,000 now. So the game's already dying. It's only been out for a couple weeks. But on the other hand, just yesterday, we had a game called 1348X Voto. Now that's not a live service game. And as of last night when I was watching, there were only 75 people concurrent playing that game in the entire world on Steam. Well, that's not a live service game. So if the live service games like Concord and High Guard and Marathon are all dying, but then this game is dying too, there has to be common denominator that has nothing to do with online play. And in my opinion, it's just called fucking fun. We live in an era where game developers, much like game journalists, are not gamers first. They are literally just political pushing, agenda pushing activists. And I know that sounds divisive, but if you really think about it, I mean, these are the same people who at the last GDC, I think it was, had a screaming session out on a lawn. These are like over 150, 200 people just outside screaming. This is not normal behavior. There's a mental disconnect. And at the end of the day, as a fellow artist, I may not be in the video game industry, but I am a graphic designer of 19 years now. And let me tell you, my craft comes first. Nobody purchases my products that I make because of how I vote or what I feel is the right direction for my country or the world or my state. And frankly speaking, I don't really want people to know my opinions of my country, my state, my anything. I don't want people to know my politics. Because back in the 90s, man, no one gave a fuck. In the early 2000s, no one gave a fuck. I look back now at my time in college, for example, and I guarantee you that I was roommates and friends with people who did not politically align with me. And it didn't come up because it didn't fucking matter. I judged them based on their morals, I judged them based on their personality, and I judged them based on common interests. And if more than two of those things went in line, preferably all three, we had friendship. And that was that. And you can't just have a one-note view of everything and expect to make good art when you make a development team filled with a bunch of people who are exactly the same as you. My team is filled with people who I probably do not agree with politically. Maybe some I do, a lot I don't. I judge them based on the content of their worth. I judge them based on their skill. I judge them based on what they can bring to the table for my company. And we hired accordingly. You cannot make good art if art is not the main priority. You cannot make good games if making the best game is not your main priority. And it's just not. I was watching a live stream last night by Minimal Effort on this Voto game, and it's absolutely horrendous. It is the most linear game I've ever seen, which I like linear games, but it was linear in the most basic, boring, just lifeless way. Everything just felt like one long hallway with nothing to do. Every enemy fought exactly the same. The combat was stilted. The enemies made no sense. Even the blood pattern on the sword repeated 4 times. And it was so painfully obvious that everyone in the chat was talking about it. How do you make a game in which in 15 minutes people can tell that there's a major problem and you spent years on it? It's because you didn't care. None of the objects were interactable with your sword. So if you swung at swords, the only thing that it would make contact with would be a wall. And then all of the items in the game were weren't really interactable. So there was nothing to loot, not even on bodies. So the entire world felt pointless and dead. You would have tall flowers coming up about 2.5 feet on your body, and you couldn't pick them up like Arc Raiders, for example, even though they looked like something that you should be able to collect. All the items essentially did the same thing. They added a bit of life to your main character, who is a non-binary lesbian. Yes, this is in the 1300s. This is a developer which, by the way, attacked another developer for having the audacity to be making a game with an attractive female character in it. Not even the main protagonist. And when you know it, no one's buying this game. And it's not just because of the fact that it's politically driven and that you're playing as a lesbian knight in an allegedly historically accurate game. It's about the fact that because that was their main focus, the rest of the game suffered, and it's not fun. They too also put out a demo just a few weeks ago, and it bombed. So the few people who actually were curious about it played it and went, nah. In addition to that, the people who scream and yell the loudest don't buy anything. So please, by all means, continue to make online games. I think that'd be great. Just make them good. Daz out. Love you all. Talk to you later.